Great reporter. And, all right, Kevin Clark on a Friday. For the record, I have a beard. You have a mustache.
Yeah.
2020 is a lot of different stuff. Can we start with that?
It started with laziness for me, and now it's a fashion statement. And I don't know if it's going to go away. When life returns to normal, I think the facial hair stays. I don't know. I mean, I think you have great facial hair right now. Yeah. But I just feel like this is a long-term plan for me that started out as a short-term plan.
Yeah, agreed totally. All right, so I watched last night, and my takeaway was, oh, wait. Now Patrick Mahomes is efficient, too? He went from gunslinger to surgeon. I thought, this will never make his highlight reel games, but I was kind of blown away by his efficiency last night. You?
So when I talk to people around the league about what this season's going to look like, everybody said that it's going to be the obvious stuff. Lamar Jackson's going to be hard to tackle. Patrick Mahomes is going to be a great passer because defenses just aren't going to be ready for it. I mean, it's what people say about Curb Your Enthusiasm, right? Is that Larry David just playing a heightened version of himself.
Right.
That's what all the great players are going to be doing this year. And Patrick Mahomes is going to be a better version of Patrick Mahomes because defenses will be in more simplified coverages and they'll be able to take the next step. Dominance is the key this year. And Patrick Mahomes will be able to take the next step. And I think that it's really interesting to see how good he can get. Because, listen, he's going to make $503 million over the next decade. He is the best quarterback in football. And you wonder where the ceiling is. And right now, I don't know if there is one. Because this is a season about cohesion, about being on the same page. Who's more on the same page than Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy, Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and now Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I mean, I don't see much competition outside of Baltimore in the AFC.
NFL writer, the Ringer, Kevin Clark, our friend, bring him on often. So I say everybody likes, Tampa Bay to some degree. And my theory is defense will carry them early. Todd Bowles is underrated. Front seven's very good. And then I think the offense will catch up. But if I said to you, Kevin, it doesn't go well. And I say, Kevin, predict it doesn't go well. What's the problem? Where is the potential pothole landmine for this team?
I would say kind of what the opposite of the Mahomes thing, the cohesion thing. No one cares about throwing passes to the inch like Tom Brady. And all of a sudden, instead of 20 years of institutional memory in New England and knowing exactly where everyone's going to be, not only on the field, but in the building, he's coming in and trying to replicate that very quickly in Tampa Bay. You cannot get those sort of OTA-type reps on high school fields in Tampa. You just can't. And so I think there might be a slow September or October with Tom Brady. I think it's going to happen for him. But I think that maybe there might be some communication issues or timing issues or verbiage issues in the offense. You're just learning all new things in a year where that's really hard to do. I'm never going to bet against Tom Brady. I think the Bucs are going to make the playoffs, but I think that we're going to see a better Bucs in November and December than we are September, October, just because of the mechanics of this season.
There are 9 teams that either have a new head coach / system or a new quarterback on the roster that they're starting. I think 8 lose. I do think Carolina at home beats the Raiders, who don't travel well or play much defense. So let's talk a little bit about Baker and Stefanski. Now, in Stefanski, in fact, Coach Case Keenum, I think he's going to make it more run-centric. I think Baker is going to be a component to it, not the driver of it. That's my guess. What are you hearing? What's your thoughts about what we see from Cleveland, who, by the way, has a brutal opener at Baltimore?
Yeah, I think that the Baltimore thing, you kind of throw that out, okay? Their season starts in week 2 on Thursday night against Cincinnati, in my opinion, all right? So I talked to Andrew Berry, the Browns GM, this week, actually, and we talked a bit about how he's building around the quarterback. But when I hear building around the quarterback, I think a lot of people hear getting Odell Beckham or getting some of the things they've done the last couple of years where it's weapons. But I think that a lot of it is just the basics. And you traded Kevin Zeitler for Olivier Vernon. Everybody got excited and I hyped them up. But it turns out you need a guard. And it turns out that signing Jack Conklin to play tackle is a great move. And we skipped so many of the basics last year that mistakes were made. And I think that now they've seen a year of not only Baker's bad habits, but also just the holes that they had in that hyped up roster. And they were able to plug them very quietly without hype. I really like Kevin Stefanski. I really like the things that they're going to do. And I have a lot of optimism because this is a post-hype team that's able to see where mistakes were made. A lot of that was Freddie Kitchens. I put way more blame on Freddie Kitchens for Baker's 2019 than you do. But I think there's a huge addition by subtraction thing in Cleveland right now.
No, by the way, we said yesterday, all the issues in Cleveland, you cannot, totally unfair to blame Baker. He's a kid. He's had too much instability here. He was fine in Oklahoma when you have a very stable program. So this is an interesting one. The other day, I was reading a story, and Aaron Rodgers said, I think we're a little under the radar. I don't. I think we all kind of know what Green Bay is. Last year, they were talented, but a little bit of a finesse team that got pushed around by the Chargers, pushed around by Philadelphia, pushed around by San Francisco. So they go to the draft, and they get a blocking tight end and a physical running back, an interior offensive lineman. But here's the question. Is the last 3 years Aaron Rodgers' completion percentage down, his passer rating down? 2 years ago, I was told it was clickbait if I said I don't buy the Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady GOAT conversation. One is, and one's just super talented. Have we seen, in your opinion, Kevin, the best Aaron? And it's just from this point forward, it is just a little bit less every year.
I don't want to get into the GOAT conversation, but I'm going to make a comparison that's going to confuse you in that sense. Aaron reminds me at this stage a little bit of Tiger Woods. And what I mean by that is that there's still the capability on every time he drops back to see the best thing you've ever seen in the sport. I mean, he might roll out and he might go back to the sort of proto Mahomes thing he was doing a decade ago. And there's always that possibility. He still has that. It's just becoming less and less likely every time. I still think he's one of the most talented passers we've ever seen. I still think he's capable. We saw, he was one game away from the Super Bowl last year, but that kind of gets dismissed because of how large that gap was between Green Bay and the 49ers. I like what they did. Could they have added a receiver in the first round? Absolutely. I think that's a separate thing. But as far as trying to get a little more physical, trying to play San Francisco's style of ball, I'm fine with that. And I think that he still has the capability to be a top 10 quarterback. And I still feel like he has a lot of the things he had when he was an elite quarterback. I just think time comes for us all. And I just don't think he has the capability to be the best quarterback in football anymore. And that wasn't true 2 years ago. I think he still had that. So this is just natural aging curve. I mean, I think there's a lot of guys, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, all those guys. I mean, there's an age gap there. But at some point after age 35, 36, you're just not going to be Mahomes or Lamar Jackson anymore.
So last year, once or twice on camera, we heard Tom Brady yelling at his receivers, "Get open, separate." Cam Newton has the misfortune of inheriting those possession receivers. What are realistic expectations for what I believe is the least dynamic wide receiving tight end core in the league? What's realistic for him?
I think there's a very interesting thing going on in New England right now, which is they've been claiming to be the underdog for 20 years, Colin. You know this. Every time they'll be 8-1, they'll lose one game, and they'll say, nobody believed in us. And I said, what are you talking about? Okay, so I think that the expectations are quite low. I think realistically, they could be a 9 or 10 win team just because they still have talent. Stephon Gilmore and J.C. Jackson are two lockdown cornerbacks. We saw that statistically last year. I think those opt-outs really, really hurt their ability. And, no one is a better judge at 1 through 53 on the roster than Bill Belichick and getting those mid-tier veterans. I mean, that's been their bread and butter the last decade. It's the guys who make $7, $8, $9, $10 million and just having a deeper roster than everybody. Well, if 6 of those guys opt out, well, that's a problem. And so I worry about New England a little bit in that regard. But from an offensive standpoint, I think Cam's going to be able to get a lot of free yardage. No one in the NFL is better at figuring out how to get free yardage over whether that's on special teams, defense, offense, whatever it is, than Bill Belichick in all three phases of the game. And so I think you're going to see a lot of easy first downs for Cam Newton. But I agree with you. I think overall he's not going to have a lot of open guys. And listen, you look at Cam's 2015 receiving core with Carolina when he won the MVP, it wasn't that good, okay? Greg Olsen was a good safety valve and all that stuff, but I don't think that he's really had an incredible infrastructure here. And so I think they're a 9-10 win team. I think with the opt-outs, it's a different conversation, but I like Buffalo in the AFC East.
Good stuff. Kevin Clark got a mustache, fits him well. The Ringer does great work. It is a pleasure to see you. Last night was fun. I cannot wait for the weekend, and thank you so much.